In this video, I want to talk about my impressions for the Diablo 2 Resurrected Beta. I'm hoping many of you guys got the drop from our Twitch stream and were able to play this weekend, whether you pre-ordered or not, and got to form a sense of the game for yourself. But in this video, I want to talk about what I think so far and what I've seen during the beta. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that I've gotten to play on PC, PlayStation 5, and PlayStation 4. I want to talk a little bit about the performance and how I think the performance is across these platforms. Let's talk about PC first. This is probably the best platform to play on, in my opinion. The graphics look more sharp, they look more crisp. There's obviously a lot more customization options when it comes to graphics, so if your PC isn't top of the line, you can adjust it and make sure you have a smooth performance. I will say I didn't feel like I was getting huge performance out of the game for the computer that I'm running on my Corsair One Pro. I was getting about 80 FPS on max settings at 4K, which is okay, but I felt like I should be getting higher for a game that's running on a 20-year-old engine, even though it's upscaled or converted to a more modern version or whatever of that engine. I felt like I should be getting better performance than what I was getting, although it wasn't bad. The other thing, playing on PC gives you a lot more lobby options that you don't have on console. For instance, on PC, you can actually create lobbies that are password protected, or just create a regular lobby that anyone can join or join other lobbies. This isn't something that's available on console, so it can be a lot harder to find people to play with that are trying to do specific things. And so that's another reason you may want to consider playing on PC. Talking about PS5 for a minute, I got to play on both the quality and performance settings. This is kind of your standard higher resolution, less frame rate, lower resolution, better frame rate setup. I think probably out of the two, performance handles a bit better. It's a bit smoother, although it plays okay on quality. But I would recommend playing on performance if you're going to play on PS5. It just makes for a better, smoother experience, even if it isn't quite as crisp. And then finally, I also played on PS4 Pro. This isn't the base PS4, so I don't know how the game plays on base PS4. But on PS4 Pro, the frame rate was good enough, in my opinion. It was probably hovering somewhere around 60 FPS, or at least it felt fairly close to that, if not exactly 60 FPS. And the graphics weren't quite as good as PS5 as you might expect, but it played relatively well, and I don't think you should have any problems playing on this platform. A couple issues with console that I think people might run into are finding people to play with might be a bit more difficult. Because you cannot create lobbies the way you can on PC, you're either forced to find a random game with like a specific quest setting that people are on specific quests, or you are going to have to invite people or play with people you know specifically. I think there's going to be quite a few people who play with their friends, so that may not be as big of an issue. But if you're somebody who doesn't know a lot of people, or you don't know anyone else who's playing Diablo 2 Resurrected and you're trying to find people to play with, you're going to get kind of a crapshoot of what you get online. Another issue is the fact that the chat, you have to chat with controller, which takes a really long time to say anything, and that there's no in-game voice chat, so you'd have to invite somebody to chat outside of the application, which may be a problem. You don't typically invite people into a party to chat with them that you've never spoke to before. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be comfortable doing that, which is going to kind of hinder playing with random people on the internet. Beyond that, one of the biggest issues playing online is, of course, shared loot. If you didn't know, Diablo 2 has shared loot. That means anything that drops is up for grabs for anyone. When you're playing with random people, or even your friends, people tend to just grab whatever because they assume the other people will grab whatever. It's probably a safe assumption. So a lot of times you get screwed out of loot, and it makes it for a less fun experience than, maybe if you're playing with somebody you know, or a family friend, or a couple of good friends, and you guys are playing different classes, so loot distribution is rather easy. Playing online with randoms is going to wreck that loot experience for you, and might dissuade you from doing that. It's one thing to have the loot issue, but it's another not to be able to communicate. So if you're not going to be able to communicate and you have a loot issue, you cannot resolve that issue. You can't say, it's not going to be as easy to communicate, I'm looking for this gear or that gear or somebody else, to have a dialogue back and forth, and gain trust of somebody so that you guys can play together even though you just met. So that's probably going to dissuade a lot of people from playing online with people they don't know. And I have serious concerns about what that means for the longevity of the game beyond playing with your friends. In some ways, I almost feel like Blizzard or the Diablo 2 Resurrected team got some bad feedback here, because I feel like shared loot is something that should have been changed. I understand that there is a sense to preserve the original essence of Diablo 2, but if you're a new player coming into this game, it's seriously going to dissuade you from playing with other people. And I feel like there's a fine line between not changing anything and preserving the essence of a classic, and making it better when you have the opportunity to do so. And I don't think you're going to see tons of people complaining about changing shared loot. Sure, maybe you'll get some really loud individuals that say it changes the whole game, but realistically, you're going to have far more people complaining about shared loot, and it would absolutely extend the life of this game if people could play online without that worry. And there are other things I feel like they should have changed as well. It doesn't end there. For instance, if you're playing on PC and you're using controller, you can auto-sort your inventory. However, if you switch back to keyboard and mouse, you cannot do that. Why can you do it on controller but not keyboard and mouse is beyond me. I mean, you can literally pick up a controller, auto-sort your loot, then go back to keyboard and mouse in a couple of seconds and be done. If you can do that, why not just give people the option? Is it to just maintain some semblance of the original game that you literally cannot add an auto-sort? That sort of thing is beyond me. I mean, that's so minimal. Why not just add it? Other things I would have wished that they would have changed as well are I wish you would have more inventory space or created a separate inventory space for charms. As much as, again, they want to preserve the essence of the game, going back and forth to dump your inventory every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes as you get more and more loot is not exactly how you want to be spending your time. You want to be out there farming and killing monsters, and I don't feel like it would have ruined the experience for anyone to have a larger inventory or a separate inventory for charms. I am extremely happy they increased the storage space and added tabs for transferring equipment between characters that you can also use to stash stuff. That is a huge improvement, so kudos there, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm just knocking the negatives, because that is a massive improvement in my opinion, and I'd love to see stuff like that. Another issue that I have playing multiplayer that I forgot about is basically that you get body blocked by other players all the time. There are a lot of narrow corridors and doorways inside Diablo 2, and a lot of times you and other players will block each other, get blocked in by enemies, and you can get your teammates killed, or they can get you killed, and the more players you add to the mix, the more likely it is for you to get frustrated and body blocked. One little change they could have made is making it so you can pass through other players. I don't know what the ramifications are for that for PvP, but in terms of PvE, that would have made the PvE experience better. All in all, though, I really, really enjoyed the beta. My best moments playing the beta were from co-oping with friends of mine, where we were talking on, in Discord chat so that we could communicate who needs what. I have this weapon, you need this weapon. And I feel like the bulk of people are probably going to get the most fun from playing Diablo 2, either alone or with close friends. And the sort of greater online community playing with randoms is probably not going to be such a huge thing, particularly on console, because it's just too difficult to do, and there's not a lot of incentive to do it. For those of you who have played the closed beta, what do you think so far? Are the multiplayer issues on console dissuading you from wanting to play with random people, or has it not been a problem for you? Is the shared loot a deal breaker? Is that something you wish they would have changed, or is it something that doesn't really bother you and it doesn't really matter that they didn't change that at all? How has your experience been on console? Have you tried playing with controller? How's Xbox? I haven't got to check that out. Let me know in the comments below.